Hello and welcome to Accenti's Workshops to Build Community, Engaging Canadian Seniors. The project is made possible through the financial support of Employment and Social Development Canada as part of the New Horizons Seniors Program. My name is Accenti, founding editor-in-chief. Today's workshop is Writing from the Body When Language Fails Us with Julian A M.P. And I'm pleased to introduce our workshop leader. Julian A M.P., him, them, is a transgender white settler, a writer, and a visual artist. He teaches at the University of Toronto Scarborough and is also a parent to 2 young children. Welcome, Julian. We're really excited about your workshop. The microphone is yours.
Hi. Wow, I'm very excited to see you all here. I get a little bit of a performance anxiety, so I'm just going to take a deep breath. I prepared a slideshow to take us through the exercises. The majority of what I say today will be visible on the screen, but if you need to, you can turn on captions by going to the bottom of your screen, the bottom right-hand side. And if you hit those 3 dots, you will see that there is a caption option. So if you need captions beyond what I'm giving, you can use that. And then when the captions interfere, you can remove them. So that's powered on. All right, so I'm going to call up my PowerPoint and I'm going to share the screen. I'm very used to doing this, but it still makes me nervous. All right, so here we go. And then I'm going to turn this to full screen so that you see it. Okay. All right. So how do we go down here? How do we go next slide? Is it this? Right. So I wanted to start with a land acknowledgement. I have to remove all of the windows from the land acknowledgement so I can see what it looks like. I'd like to acknowledge this land where I am. It has been the site of human activity for 15,000 years. This land is the territory of the Wendat and Petun First Nation, the Seneca, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit River. I'm in Toronto. The territory was the subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy and Confederacy of Ojibwe and Allied Nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. This land was stolen by settlers following the arrival of the first British and Europeans to this continent. Over hundreds of years, an immeasurable amount of violence was done to the original inhabitants of this land by settlers and their governments. I'm Amishkwatsi Khan, Edmonton-born transmasculine white European settler who resides in Toronto. I'm the descendant of settler immigrants who arrived here to seek more hospitable conditions than in their home countries. I want to take responsibility for my ancestors and for my own contribution to the harm and continued disenfranchisement of the original inhabitants of this land. And I want to do better. So I can move forward now. It's very difficult to do this with the thing. So the meeting chat, I've removed the meeting chat from my screen. So if someone does use the chat, please bring it to my attention. Thank you. So a little bit about me. I'm assistant professor in studio at the University of Toronto Scarborough. I edited a book in 2020, Essays on the Works of Roy Kyoka. I'm currently finishing, literally this week, another edited collection called Bodies and Friction, Queer and Trans Stories of Kink and Care. And I publish writing under my name, Julian A.M.P. or Julian A.M.P., and under a pseudonym. I'm a practicing artist and performer, and I have degrees in art and music, in studio, master's in studio from School of the Art Institute of Chicago, a BFA from Concordia, and a Bachelor of Music from McGill, where I studied voice. So this is I love this image because when I think of Zoom, I think of the Muppets. And of course, I've taught a lot of Zoom classes because I taught through the pandemic. So just some quick guidelines, which I'm sure you're all very, very well versed in. This is a caring and inclusive space, so please be kind and tolerant. I'm sure you all are. And you're invited to share or ask questions by raising your hand or by using the chat. Please don't interrupt or crosstalk. And you are invited to share an excerpt of your writing after each exercise, but if you do not feel like sharing, it's not obligatory, okay? My favorite Muppet is still Kermit. I'd love to hear who yours are. So writing from the body when language fails us. I guess just really quickly to summarize what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be using our bodies in our immediate surroundings to explore sensation, impulse, and action. And writing reflections will follow. I think I have 4 writing exercises plus some opportunities for us to discuss. We're going to ask the question, what does my body already know? And just quickly, you will need a pencil for one of these exercises. If you don't have a pencil, a pen will suffice, but see if you can hustle a pencil out of your immediate surroundings. There will be writing, so be prepared to write. All right. Okay, so when language fails us, failure in my writing efforts, failure in my goals, failure in my ability to communicate. These are some things when I think about when language fails us. I can't see you on the screen, which actually is strange for me. How do I get you guys back? Maybe I have to go escape. Maybe I have to stop sharing for a second. There you all are. Okay, so when language fails us, so how do we think about failure is one of the things I'm sort of trying to kind of come to terms with. I realize when I say when language fails us, we need to sort of understand what we mean by failure, right? So of course, some definitions of failure would be lack of success, right? Wanting to do something and it not working, right? Or the omission of expected or required action, sort of a failure to comply with basic rules, right? There was something that was supposed to be done and so failed. You could say a lack of or a deficiency of a desirable quality. I want to be good at this, but I failed, right? The action or state of not functioning. My dishwasher is always breaking. Don't ask. So that's also failure. Failure of the machine, failure of the thing that's supposed to work. And then, of course, if we look at the origin, it's failure or failure in the senses of non-occurrence, right? Cessation of supply. So the idea of something supposed to happen and it doesn't happen. Non-occurrence, cessation of supply. We're supposed to have something and we don't have it. All right, so I'm going to ask for a little bit of participation here. How do I get you back? How do I get you back? This is the, oh, there we go. All right, I love it. Here you are. So what do we think about failure? Does anyone want to talk a little bit about what they think about in terms of failure and a writing objective? We're all writers here. If you're here and you've shown up to have a writing exercise experience, writing workshop experience, then you're a writer. You already are, so you're not a failure. But when we think about, there are no failures in writing. When we think about what it is, the fear of failure, or what are some of the first things that come to mind? Does anyone want to speak? Like if you have a goal, you know, something in your mind about failure. Does anyone want to talk a little bit about that? Oh yeah, sure. Steph, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. Okay. So when I think about failure, I think about expectations, right? So it's like, what was the expectation to not fail or succeed? So what is the end goal? And I find that is the worst way to think about writing for me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it has to just be something that is immersed in emotions. And that's like where I feel like I have to just limit expectations.
Yeah, expectations can be killers. Absolutely.
Like, so I guess my end statement there would be like, it's just like not failing would be, it's okay to just get lost and explore.
That's so perfect. Yeah, exactly. It's okay to just get lost and explore. Exactly. Thank you very much. I think there was one other hand up. Was it Emma? Oh, you got to unmute, Mom. You got to unmute. This is my mother. Hi.
Hi, Jen.
Hi.
When I think about failure, when failure happens to me, when I feel a sense of failure,
Mhm.
it's like a big echo chamber. It reverberates down my life to any and all other failures I might have had, and changes my state of mind. So failure can be a very, very destructive at many levels, I would say.
Yeah.
And I don't know how other people deal with that, but I find that a bit of a challenge at times.
That's thank you for sharing that. That what you're describing sounds a lot like rejection dysphoria, which a lot of us suffer from and don't know that we're suffering from it, meaning the failure, a single failure or a very particular component failure in our otherwise vast life suddenly becomes the filter through which we see everything else, and it's just crushing, right? It's just crushing. It's horrible. I hope to eliminate that somehow magically, but it's a very difficult thing. You have to be very conscious that it's happening. And it still happens to me, and it still happens to you, Emma. Yeah, one more. Is it Chris Hanlon? Do you want to speak? Oh, you have to unmute, please. Love to hear from you. Just go down and unmute.
Okay.
There you go. Hi.
I think we're such a verbal society. When your words don't work, in other words, you feel like you're saying the right thing, but the person you're saying it to doesn't seem to hear it, and so it might not. Yeah, so you just don't know. It's like you've sent it out there, and and you're, it's like sending it out into the void or something. So that's another way I think of I
When
guess
your
you could
words
call it
don't work.
failure. But it's a lot like frustration too.
Yeah. When your words don't work. I love that sentence, right? Because of course we all have, we're all capable of speech, but sometimes it just doesn't do the job. It's the puzzle piece that doesn't fit with the rest of the puzzle, and you're sort of left out with your language all by yourself, right? When your words don't work. Exactly. Luce, you want to share something before we move on? Hi.
Sorry, Julian, I also wanted to mention that Allison had the hand up, but
Okay.
that's fine. Just
Great.
one
Luce
more.
and then Allison. Hi, Allison. Okay, great. Great.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, give a little nod to imposter syndrome, because like imposter syndrome feels like a cancer in me and my creative work. And yeah, so it's nice to be here. Thanks for the prompt that we're all here because we're writers.
And we're all here because we're writers. Imposter syndrome is hilarious too, because who's the imposter syndrome coming from, right? It's internal, right? There's no one who can tell you what you are. So imposter syndrome is this thing of us standing in our own way, but it's this perception that everyone else is, right? I mean, at least that's how I feel it. I always feel it as it's someone else standing in my way, but actually it's just me protecting myself. That's what it is. Protect you from the feeling of failure, right? What's worse than feeling failure? Well, just avoid it and just feel like you're not an imposter, so don't even try, right? I get that. It's a horrible thing. Allison, please share.
Well, thanks, Lucia, for including me. Yeah, I do a lot of writing with Amherst writers. So the people who hear my writing are very positive, and then when I occasionally creep out and ask people who aren't, that safe group, what they feel if it doesn't land the way I had hoped. I'm just not getting the feedback. Then I just find it makes me stop for a while, because I'm just thinking, okay, that was just my imaginary life where people appreciate what I write, and it's not really ready for others.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
That.
I totally hear you about that certain communities of people feel like absolutely resonant with you, and then others you feel like you can't reach them, or you suddenly become less visible to yourself because they're not hearing you, right? And that's, an audience, who is your ideal audience, or who do you actually want to talk to? And my father always told me to write as if I was the one who wants to read it. You know, if you write in a way that you would want to read it, you're writing for the audience you want, right? That's who you're talking to. You're talking to a younger self or a future self, right? This was something my father gave me as advice, which I've thought of every day of my life. All right, so is that okay? Oh, one more person, Steph. Yeah. Hi, Steph.
That last thought just really resonated with me because of the whole thing about like fostering creativity and feeling like you're somewhere you belong, or like people want to actually like hear your voice or read your writing. I feel like community has been so key in my experience. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, they're so important. They're so important to cultivate and maintain connection to community. And how is it possible to do that? It's so hard, difficult to do that now, right? We have to sort of make this extra effort. But we can find it. It's possible. So I'm going to revert back to the slideshow. So I'm just going to share the screen. Thank you so much for your for sharing. All right, so here we go back to the slideshow. And then I'm just going to go to, all right. So some of the things that come up here, not getting what we expect, right? When words don't work, feeling as though we aren't doing something correctly, imposter syndrome, right? Perceiving others as succeeding at something we feel that we are unable to succeed at, right? That's one that comes up. And the difficult to articulate experience of having a goal and not knowing how to get to it because we lack perspective or skill or both, right? So that was something I wanted to sort of cover. As we move forward, we're going to cover these. So what does my body already know? This is a question I'm going to be asking you to answer, okay? What does my body already know? Now, I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this excerpt. I'm wondering if I should ask the question, what does my body already know now, or read this excerpt first? I think I'll read this excerpt first. So this is S.J. Norman. This was an artist, author, who was recommended to me by someone I was mentoring with. And I didn't know who this was, and now I do, and they are pretty fantastic. So they're an artist, writer, and curator. They're a trans-masculine person and a Southeastern Koori and Wiradjuri heritage. So those are indigenous communities in Australia, in the territory called Australia. Their career has so far spanned 17 years and has embraced a diversity of disciplines, including solo and ensemble performance, installation, sculpture, text, video, and sound. And they've been commissioned by the Sydney Biennale, Performance Space New York, Venice International Performance Art Week, etc. And they're the recipient of numerous awards in contemporary art. So this is a text they wrote. This is a novel they wrote, but they are a practicing visual artist. So it's really interesting to hear from someone who's got this kind of plural disciplinarity. Here they go. All right. How do I get here first? Hang on, excuse me for a second. All right, so I'm going to go to my excerpt. We are on page 73 here, so I'm going to read directly from the book. I went out for a walk. I followed the ancient stone wall down the hill towards town. It was still early. Overnight, there'd been a sudden change in the weather. That morning, it could have been autumn. The air was cool. The valley was crouching under a heavy gray blanket of mist. I couldn't see far beyond the edges of the road. I wanted to walk and luxuriate in the cool, uninterrupted quiet of early morning. I had left the city in search of it, needing it like oxygen. I wanted calm. I wanted to be still for my body to settle into the present like a polished rock in a riverbed. It had felt, riding my bike up the hill in the heat the night before, like the peace I craved was within my reach. I felt the same that morning, but there was something preventing me from fully relinquishing. There was something watching. Dirt has sentience. It knows its own. The valley allowed me to move through it and breathe its air, but it regarded me with circumspection. There was some concentrated power in the place that was palpable and not entirely welcoming to outsiders. I'd been walking for a while before I became aware of another body moving through the mist. The undergrowth shivered. I could hear footsteps and the creak of leather coming up the forest slope to my left. I paused, looked into the silver depths. Someone was moving towards me through the trees. It was a man. I'd seen him before, the previous night at the grocery store, inspecting the apples. Cast downwards under the rim of his cap, his face appeared much smoother and finer featured than I remembered. Pale skin pulled tight over his hircine bone structure, temples and brow blooming with ornate black line work. There was magic in those tattoos. They altered his humanity, made him into a strange and beautiful animal. He saw me. At first, he seemed hostile, paused, sniffed. When he realized I wasn't a predator, he moved closer. He stepped over the wall and onto the road, keeping his eyes hard on me. He had a dog with him, a mastiff, lumbering by his side. "Hiya," he said as he passed, pushing the word through his teeth like a pip. After this brief acknowledgement, he cast his gaze downward again and kept walking. I discreetly followed behind him, fell into the rhythm of his swagger. He had a sack slung over his shoulder. It looked heavy, and his body pitched to accommodate the weight. I followed him through the gates of the estate, the river on one side, the woods on the other, the sparse, slender shadows of birch trees. Then, out of nowhere, that smell, the same sweet, burnt smell that had stopped me in my tracks the previous evening. We had reached the clearing. For a moment, I looked away. I could hear the river and my eyes shot off in the direction of the sound. I'd only taken my eyes off him for a second, but when I looked back, he was gone. It was disconcerting. I'd lost my one fixed coordinate in the sea of gray. Then behind me, I heard his voice. "Oi!" I spun around. I couldn't see him. He spoke again. "Where are you going?" I didn't know how to reply. I cast my response into the fog. "Nowhere." "Come then." I heard the creak of a hinge. I looked to my right and realized he was standing before an open gate. I went through, followed the footsteps. I could hear up ahead. I was back at the cluster of buildings, the pub, the old cider press. All right, so, and I'm just going to share the screen again, but differently. I'm going to share the screen again, but differently. I would need to get out of the full screen. I guess I'm going to have to do that and then go back. Escape. Right, there we go. So I guess I wanted to ask you now, what did you notice in that text? And maybe we could start with, out of some of the things you can notice, sort of sensory, orientation, emotion, or other. What did you notice in that text? And of course, we could say, what does your body already know, right? Does anyone want to start? Anyone? What did you notice in that text? And sensory, orientation, emotion, other. I don't see any hands up. Oh, there, Chris, go ahead. Yeah.
I noticed the smell, the nice sweet burnt smell, and then there was all the grayness, which it suggested sort of an atmospheric moisture almost.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I thought it had a lot of sensory information in it. It was very nice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
And I love the tattoos. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Visual.
mention of the tattoos, right? Yeah, the
Yes.
line work. Eloise Carbone says, I noticed fear. Emma, you have your hand up. There was some fear, yeah.
Okay, I noticed, or I thought I did, I felt a sense of this silence, this almost overwhelming silence, and I felt a sense of dampness in the air for some reason, and the coolness on the skin. And I felt a sense of the world waiting, but those are not obviously all bodily sensations, but that's what my fractured perceptions were.
Yeah, the world waiting, or the when there was the mention of how the ground somehow had knowledge that they didn't belong, right? That there was something waiting, there was some test or some way in which they needed to wait for something to happen. So the world waiting or something waiting, right? Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else? Was it who had their hand up there? Oh, Anna Romano. Yeah.
Yeah, similarly, I kind of noticed this ambiguity or uncertainty, like waiting for something to become clear, but it wasn't time yet.
Yeah. Yeah. How many of us have experienced that, right? Where you're just sort of suspended in a moment or in a period of time, and it's, you know, it's quite frustrating. You can't land, right? Great. That's a great observation. Luce.
Yeah, the thing that stood out to me was that the writer followed this subject and mirrored their gait, like started walking like and mirroring their gaits. And I think about when I do that, and I try to fall into what is that person experiencing by falling into their gait and their swagger, you know? And so what are they embodying as they're trying to mirror the other person? And it was just real curious. I had not really heard that in writing before, you know, and it just kind of, it almost morphs the two bodies together in a way, you know?
Yeah, mimicry, right? Mimicry is a survival tool, right? So we mirror each other, or we mirror a community, sort of the habits of our community or the people we're closest to. It's a way to sort of belong to something, and belonging, you are safe. So it's kind of an intuitive thing when we mimic each other or pick up each other's habits, start to look like each other, start to act like each other. But it's also actually a safety thing, right? So it's kind of interesting that it comes up in this way, as though it's almost a choice or a curiosity in a way, because the narrator is so observant of it, right? It definitely got better. Okay, I love the line "rhythm of his swagger." It's definitely got better, but I'm sitting this one out. Okay, good, Mary. Thank you. I love the rhythm of his swagger. I love the line "the rhythm of his swagger." Thank you, Anna. Okay, great. All right, so let's move on now. Thank you very much for your comments. I just wanted to ask really quickly before we move into this exercise, even one or two of you to volunteer to answer the question, what does my body already know? Right? So you've been living, you're the expert in your own life. You've been living in this body for how many years? I've been living in this body for 49 years, right? You're the expert in your own life. So out of all the things your body already knows, which one would you like to share one with us? Anyone? And I invite two or three people to speak. What does your body already know? What does my body already know? Anyone? And there's no wrong answer, because I'm not the expert in your life, right? Anyone? No pressure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, I mean, we've been using our eyes all these years, and we certainly have been seeing things. And however old we are, we've been listening to people all our life, and we can tell, you know, if somebody is nervous or worried, probably just by their tone of voice. So there's a lot of things we've learned. We also, and I don't know how we do this exactly, but we can tell when people are being dishonest, when they're lying to us.
Yeah.
And that's probably a very sophisticated sense that we have. That is sort of it's our experience with reality and with life, and maybe they're giving us little physical tells as well, that we're not even aware of picking up on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Oh,
anyway,
that's good.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Those are good. Thank you very much. I see that Leisha said, my limits, right? You said that it's limits, your limits, its limits. Your body knows its limits. And thank you for sharing the question again, Leisha. Yes, so just to clarify from Marie, what does your body already know? It could be about, it could be anything general. It could be something that you just know inside about the world around you, something you know about your own experience of the world. You know, there's no wrong answer to this. What does your body already know? Inflation is wrong. Maybe that's a good answer, right? Okay, I think Steph and then David. So Steph, what would you like to share?
I wanted to share that our body knows the way that sensations like feel to us, or like urges or potential desires. So I wanted to give an example. For me, it would be like what my favorite, dark chocolate tastes, and the way that I could crave that like pleasure of having a sweet tooth.
Exactly. So you know exactly what it's supposed to taste like, right? Exactly. Okay, that's a great answer. Great. And David, what did you want to share?
I would say just what popped into my head, that my body is knows that it is both fragile and strong at the same time, and that I know that it is resilient, but doesn't always end up as whole as I'd like to. And my body knows that it's all connected, that all of those things are connected.
Right, exactly. Right. And you know what's interesting is that you're speaking in the first person, but what you're saying has, universal application to everyone here, right? And some of us chose to speak in the first person, my body knows, and some of us chose to speak in the collective, our bodies know, which I found really interesting in terms of connection, right? How you understand yourself through connection to other people, or when you're hearing this question, you understand it immediately as significant to something you want to answer in the first person. And again, there's no wrong answer. It's just about where you're at in this moment, right? But I found that very interesting that some of you answered it collectively and some of you answered it from the first person perspective. And Judy adds, my body knows it loves to move, and its movement, thought, and in movement, thought comes more easily. Exactly. And one of the two of the exercises we're going to do today involve movement. So that's great. I'm glad you like to move. I like to move too. I love to dance. Okay, so I'm going to take you through this movement exercise. All of this will be on the slideshow. So I'm just going to revert back to the share function here. Thank you everyone for sharing. Here we go. And then back to this. I get a little bit freaked out when I'm cut off from your faces. So this is why I have to keep taking it off. I just prefer to be in a room with people, All right, so this is a movement exercise body scan to identify sensations. Actually, you know what? I just don't want it to be, I don't want it to be full screen, because then I can't move it around. So this is a movement, exercise body scan to identify sensations. It's from Livia Shapiro's The Somatic Therapy Workbook. And any of us who've had somatic therapy know, oh, wow, what a game changer, right? So for any of you who have not done an exercise like this, I'm going to do my best to speak slowly and clearly. And then there's going to be pauses in my speech. Your only job throughout this is to simply listen and to follow the instructions that resonate for you to the best of your ability according to where you're at. There's no wrong way to do this. This exercise should take about 10 minutes. And so if you hear me speak and then pause, it's just because we're sort of doing the work of the instruction, okay? All right, so let's start. And everything will be on the screen, so you can read as I go along if you need to review, okay? So in this exercise, you will come into contact with your inner world through a simple body scan. You will go sequentially through your body, bringing your awareness to each body part, and notice what is happening sensorially inside. When you do this on your own and get proficient at turning inward, you can begin it with any part of your body. But for now, let's start at your feet and work upward. I personally relish quietude, so I recommend finding a quiet spot to do this. So hopefully you all have a reasonably quiet spot. So sit comfortably in your chair or lie on the floor if you can. I'm in my chair. Close your eyes or hold a soft, gentle gaze several feet out in front of you. So try not to focus on anything in front of you, just a soft, gentle gaze. First, just notice your natural breath for a minute. Your natural breath for a minute. Sense its natural rise and fall. And if at any time you have the impulse to bring your hands onto a part of your body, trust that completely. Okay, so notice your natural breath. How deeply are you breathing? Are you breathing quickly? Are you able to slow it down? Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you to bring your attention down to the bottoms of your feet. Okay, some of us are in shoes, some of us are in socks. So bring your attention down to the bottoms of your feet. You can wiggle your toes or jiggle your feet for a minute to land there. I'm sure some of us are even barefoot. Notice what your feet feel like. Wiggle your toes, jiggle your feet for a minute to land there. Notice what your feet feel like. What do they feel like? Maybe the soles of your feet are tight. Or maybe your toes feel tingly. What do your feet feel like? Okay. Now that you checked in with your feet a little bit, you can notice your ankles and feel what your ankle bones are like inside right now. What do your ankles feel like? Your joints in your ankles, your ankle bones. What does that feel like? Maybe you want to raise your knees and lower them just so you can feel them a bit. Okay. Now let your attention rise to your calves and lower legs. Calves and lower legs. What sensations are present there in your calves and your lower legs? Is there tightness? Is there heat? Are you cold? Tightness or heat or cold? Do your shins feel heavy? Your shins. Okay. What sensations are present there? Now notice what your knees are doing. What do they feel like internally? Are they achy? Are they crunchy? What are your knees doing? What do they feel like? Are they achy? Are they stiff? Maybe they don't feel like much of anything. Lucky you. Okay, bring your attention now to the backs of your legs. What do you become aware of in the backs of your legs? So if you're sitting down, that would be your thighs on the chair. And if you're lying down, it could be the entire backs of your legs. What do the backs of your legs feel like? Don't forget to breathe. Keep breathing. Don't forget to breathe. And I just wanted to say that there should be no judgment at any point in this practice, right? You're simply becoming more deeply aware of the internal sensory life of your whole body. So we're building a kind of body literacy, right? Figuring it out as we go. Okay, backs of legs, backs of legs. Okay, so now let's notice the fronts of our legs. What are you aware of in the fronts of your legs? Is there heaviness? Is there lightness? What's going on with the fronts of your legs? Heaviness, lightness, tightness. Is there a temperature? Are you warm or cold? Don't forget to breathe. Now let your attention move to your hips. Your hips, noticing what it is like to bring your full attention there. What is it like to bring your full attention to your hips? What is arising? Breathe there. Breathe to your hips, into your hips if you can, and notice. Breathe into your hips. Imagine sending your breath all the way down and into your hips. Our diaphragm is pretty close, so it's doing the work of breathing. Keep breathing. What's going on in your hips? All right. Now you can scan into your tailbone, right? The tailbone, the very bottom of our spine, sacrum, and our lower belly, right? Lower belly, lower abdominals, right? All parts connected to our breath, right? If you bring your breath there, what happens? What happens when you bring your breath there to your tailbone, to your sacrum, to your lower belly? What happens? What do you notice inside this part of your body right now? Keep breathing. Don't forget to breathe. Okay. Now I want you to bring your attention to your lower back. What do you notice there? Is it heat or cold? Is it pressure or softness? Lower back. Lower back. What's going on there? And as you have your attention there on your lower back, you can bring it all the way around to your belly. You can feel your belly and allow your breath to show you sensation. Okay, my belly, sensation. Is there hunger there? Is there gurgling? Is there fullness or emptiness? What's going on with your belly? Okay. Don't forget to breathe. Feel into your ribs now and diaphragm and see what that's like in there. Your ribs and your diaphragm, that wonderful container for your breath. What's going on in there? Okay. What's going on in there? Ribs and your diaphragm. You've done your check-in, and now you're going to move all the way around your ribs to the back and notice your whole spine. Feel into each vertebrae with care and pay attention to how it feels. What's going on with your spine? Each vertebrae, it's very long. It's a very long spine. Maybe from the very bottom all the way up to the top and back down, and maybe stop somewhere in the middle. And then you can bring it back around to your chest. What's going on in there? Your chest. What happens around your metaphoric heart center, right? When you bring your awareness and attention to your chest, right? Don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to breathe. What's going on in your chest? Okay. Now feel into your throat with your awareness. What does your throat feel like today? Is it scratchy? Is it smooth? What's going on with your throat? Right. And from your throat, you can move back to your neck, the back of your neck. What does the back of your neck feel like today? Oh. What does the back of your neck feel like today? Okay. Wow, we've gotten all the way here, and now we're going to pay attention to the sensations of aliveness in your arms, from your shoulders down into your elbows and all the way down into your hands and fingers. The sensations of aliveness in your arms, from your shoulders down into your elbows and all the way down into your hands and fingers. What catches your attention? What arises through sensation to the surface of your consciousness here? Huh. Our surprising arms. Now bring your attention to your head. How does your head feel today? If you're lying down, notice the weight of your head on the floor. And if you're sitting, let your head soften down towards your chest and notice its gravity. Notice its gravity. Sense around the top of your skull and bring your breath there. Don't forget to breathe. What does that feel like to bring your breath to the top of your skull? Now that you've scanned your body sensorially, take some deep, full breaths and visualize your body as one full organism. Deep breaths. One full organism, a whole vessel. Take full body breaths for a minute. As you're breathing, bring your hands to your belly and feel your hands contact your body. If your eyes are closed, you can open them now. And if they're in a soft gaze, you can sharpen your focus and come out of this body-centric meditation of sensation. Okay. Good. Thank you for doing that with me. So now we're going to take 5 minutes and we're going to write down any important findings from your sensory meditation. Were you surprised? What caught your attention? How do you feel now after spending some time within? There are no right or wrong answers here, just some truth about your own experience of your body. So 5 minutes, okay? And then we'll come back.
Yes, hon. Uh-huh. Okay.
One more minute. Okay, hi everyone. So I'm curious, for that exercise, does anyone have anything that they wanted to share? I invite 2 or 3 of you to share an excerpt of your writing if you'd like. Would anyone like to share what they wrote? No pressure. There are 2 more writing exercises, so we have lots to do if you don't want to share. But does anyone want to share something that they wrote? Yeah, Emma, go ahead. Oh, you got to unmute.
I was surprised by how many parts of my body actually seem to still be working pretty efficiently and still feel pretty normal. I had an increased sense of substance, personal identity, wholeness. I felt a sense of relaxation and ease, nothing in me fighting against anything else in me. A sense of increased power, aliveness, but also, as someone said, a sense of vulnerability. A sense of acceptance, body respect, gratefulness for my relative wholeness, even though a few parts are not those I started out with. A sense of valuing my body, respecting it, wanting to preserve it and pay more attention to it. That's
Great.
it.
Thank you very much. That was really, really nice. Thank you. Very helpful to hear those things. Anyone else want to share? No pressure. Anyone? Looking around. Okay. All right. So I'm discovering that I in my habit of being, the way that I am, I definitely prepared too much material for this workshop. So I'm probably not going to read any more excerpts, but we're going to get to the second exercise. But first, I just wanted to review what we just accomplished together. So this idea of slowing down, right? Slowing down is this interesting concept around sort of how we're understood, how we understand how we have to operate, right? Late capitalism, lots of urgency, lots of pressure, never any sense of enough time, right? So slowing down means listening, it means observation, it means being present in the body, right? And it means this thing about felt time versus clock time. So when you're not looking at a clock and when you're just gauging what your body is experiencing, you can really kind of call that felt time or felt experience, right? Where I'm at, I'll show up when I want to show up, right? I'm here now, I'm in my body. I got to wait till my body catches up with the expectations around me as opposed to the other way around, right? And then we have this other idea of the luxury of not rushing, not having to make good time, right? We think of that as a luxury, but actually that should be normal, right? That should be the standard. Not rushing should be the standard, right? Being able to do one task at a time, not multitasking, just focusing on the body and doing nothing else, right? Not doing it while you listen to an audiobook or do your taxes at the same time. Thinking beyond productivity, right? Thinking beyond productivity. What else is there besides productivity? Well, a lot, right? And then goal-oriented time versus non-goal-oriented time, right? So when we think about what is goal-oriented time, it's time that has to produce a result, a tangible result, right? Non-goal-oriented time is just time experienced for what it is, right? What's going to happen? Oh, I don't know. Let's just see, right? And then reevaluating this idea of value. What do I value, right? When you check in with your body starts to tell you what you value, right? Okay, and those are my favorite guys, those snails. Okay, so I was going to read to you from Maya Biniyam's Hangman. If you haven't read this novel, I recommend it. It's not particularly triggering. It's a very interesting novel, but I'm not going to read the excerpt because there's no time. All right, so there it is. And the next exercise I wanted to do with us is an interesting exercise that I actually did with a somatic therapist. And so this is kind of a revised version that I created for this workshop. And it involves using a pencil. So if you have a pencil, pick it up. If you don't have a pencil, find a pen. If you don't have a pen, find a fork. Find something that's small like this that you can hold in your hands, right? If you don't have a fork, find a key ring, just something that you can use in your hand, that you can use that's external to your own body, okay? Now I'm going to exit the slideshow and I'm going to open a Word file to do this. So this is going to be not as long as the last one. This is like a 5-minute exercise. And then we're going to do 5 minutes of writing following, okay? And I just call it hand, touch, pencil, / pleasure. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen to the Word file. All right. Sort of some of the things that we notice when we think about our hands, right? We don't really necessarily think about our hands beyond their use, right? This is just the way it is. Unless they're in pain, unless there's an injury, we don't really consider our hands as you know, something other than, you know, instruments, right? I mean, that's just a general. I don't want to assume anything about any of you individually, but I think I take my hands for granted. I think most of us take our hands for granted. When we need to touch someone to get their attention, we think about our hands, right? And if you're in the caregiving profession or vocation, if you actually give care to a member of your family or someone close to you, if you're in caregiving, you know that touch has the potential to communicate a great deal, right? Especially for people when they can't hear or when it's nonverbal. So much so that some of us are trained to keep our touch neutral, right? Touch can communicate a great deal, but sometimes we have to keep touch neutral, right? The way a doctor uses their hands in an examination, clinical touch, right? Very little communication beyond instruction or transaction, right? So one of the things to think about with our hands is that our hands have a very high density of nerve endings, right? Compared to all of the other places on our body. It's one of the places where we have the highest density of nerve endings, right? Because our hands keep us safe, right? So they're receptors. Nerve endings are receptors, and they allow us to sense and respond to a wide range of stimuli. So our hands, especially our fingertips, are very sensitive. And if you think about those nerve endings in your hands, they're paired with parts of the brain that are in charge of receiving all the data they collect. And you can actually visualize stimulating your brain by just touching things, right? I'm stimulating my brain right now. It's kind of a funny thought, isn't it? Huh, right? For any of you who play an instrument or like to cook, right? You're actually stimulating your brain with all that touch. So the high density of nerve endings also means that those receptors allow us to experience an astounding degree of pleasure. What? Most of us don't really think about this very often because we all just have way too much to do. I know you all have way too much to do, but one of our jobs today, right now, we're going to give it 5 minutes, is to think about that, to think about pleasure, right? Hands love to feel things. So we're just going to let them do that today. We are going to notice what's coming through our hands. Let's call it inflow. And we're going to be inviting information through our hands. And we are going to be thinking about that information or data as an opportunity for taking in pleasure, actually claiming pleasure, right? Because of course, touch is a gift, and so is being able to experience touch and use our hands to examine the environment around us. And of course, this might change the way you experience your hands temporarily or permanently. Hopefully, we'll all take our hands a little less for granted after this, right? And there's a question, what happens if I let my hands feel good for no reason whatsoever? And is it even possible to do that? Oh, it is. All right, so here we go. Here's the exercise. It's going to take about 5 minutes. So I want you to lean back in your chair. If you lean forward, you're engaging the muscles of your trunk. So if you can lean back against a wall or against your chair, do that. Unless it's something you can't do with your body, in which case sit how you're comfortable. You're going to pick up your pencil or your object. Let's just pick it up and bring it into focus in your hands. Bring it close to you so that your arms aren't reaching out. You can hold it in your lap, actually. It might be good to hold it in your lap. The first thing that will happen is automatic. You'll notice the name. So if it's pencil, you'll notice pencil. If it's a pen, you'll notice pen, keys, whatever. Oh, yeah, that's a that. That's a that. That's a pencil. So now let's start by holding the pencil in our hands. And while you examine it, use every part of your hands to examine it. Let your hands slow down as they examine the pencil. You might notice that the slower you move your hands, the more you can feel. So the more your hands move very slowly, the more you can feel. Use your fingers to figure out the object, right? Where are the rough places? Where are the smooth places? Where are the sharp edges? Where are the round places? Just feel whatever you feel with that object. Where are the rough places? Where are the smooth places? Where are the sharp edges? And where are the round places? And you might have the experience that it's easier to see what your hands are doing than it is to feel what your hands are doing, just because you're not used to it. So if you want to, look at your hands and see what they're doing, and then slow them down by half and see what changes about what you notice, about what you feel. So look and slow down. Gotta slow down. Okay. And now, if you want to turn things around a bit, you can try using the pencil as a tool to stimulate the different parts of your hand. On one hand, right? And then the other hand. You can search for parts of your hand that don't get a lot of contact, the different parts of your hand that don't experience touch that often, maybe between your fingers or the back of your hand, right? Or maybe the very tips of your fingernails, or maybe your wrist, or maybe a part of your palm. Your only job is to feel all the different parts of the pencil very slowly with all the different parts of your hand. Really try to slow down. Whenever you become aware of how much your hands are moving, slow them down even more. See how slowly you can touch or be touched by the pencil. How many different directions can you move in to explore that touch and that sensation? So as you continue to touch the pencil with your hands, you will notice your mind will wander. And that's not a problem. Your mind's going to wander. That's the job of the mind. Just bring it back to your hands again. Then it'll wander somewhere else. It's not a problem. Just bring it back to your hands again. Slow down. So you're bringing your attention right here to your hands again and again. Wandering will happen many times. Slow down. Move back and forth. Maybe the object is a tool right now, touching your fingers, touching your hand, touching your palm. Or maybe you're handling the object and trying to find all of the different surfaces. So something that will happen, which is also fairly automatic, is that you'll begin to notice that it's pleasant. Oh, that feels kind of good when I move my fingers over this little place here. It feels really pleasant. If you stay there and bring your attention there, you might be quite surprised at the pleasure that your hands are capable of all by themselves. This is pleasure that is just between you and your skin, the nerve endings of your skin. Take a few moments for this. Don't forget to slow down. Slow down as you are feeling the surfaces of the pencil. Slow is key. Slowing down shifts your physiology into a different gear. Of course it does. Your muscles will soften. Your breath will slow. Your attention will slow down. Figuring out how to slow down can take a bit of time, so don't worry if you don't feel it right away. So the next thing that happens, and this happens sometimes but not always, is that feelings arise that you were probably not expecting. This is what slowing down and paying attention can do, and it can be quite powerful. So these can be very surprising, these feelings, and there's a huge range in what can come up for people. And there's also a huge range in how strong they can be. So it might be a sense of surprise or relief. Oh, all this feels great. I didn't know it could feel this good. Can also be a little confounding, like, what's going on here? This is a kind of odd, right? Or you might also be feeling a bit of sadness or grief. And those are quite common, and people will be kind of surprised. Misty eyes are very common. The feelings happen. And more challenging sets of feelings that can come up are things like fear, right? Perhaps you're not doing it right. Don't worry, you are. Just slow down, maybe. Sometimes anger might come up for you. Why are we doing this? What's the point of this? Oh, that's a terrific question, and one that is very connected to self-protection. Don't worry, we all feel that from time to time. Pleasure can feel really dangerous, and it's okay. And you are entirely in control of this. You're in control of this, just so you know. And pleasure can also turn into feelings of self-doubt or even shame, like, this seems really strange because it's just a pencil, right? I feel guilty I'm having this kind of pleasure, right? So there's all ranges of feelings that can happen. Okay. So what we're going to do now, I was going to try to, I'm going to come back to the screen now. So we've all had this experience. I was going to try to repeat this with 5 objects, but there's no time. What I want you to do is to just take 5 minutes, and I want you just to write a few things down about what you experienced. So you might describe texture, or you might describe the sensory experience of touching your hand, what thoughts or feelings came up, anything that kind of came up for you while you were doing that exercise. Just take 5 minutes to write a little bit, okay? And I'll call you all back in 5 minutes, all right? Thanks. So 2 more minutes. Okay, great. So I see in the chat that Maria wrote 2 things. So in response to what does my body already know, Maria wrote, if it hurts, my body wants me to get away. And then in response to the body scan, Maria wrote, my Wi-Fi is unstable, but I do have a little from scan I can share with you. My body and I have been at odds these last couple of days. I'm angry and upset and disappointed it is not healing or responding to what I think are healing ways to calm it, to remove pain. But with this exercise, it was as if I was listening to it, though am not very articulate about what I found, more about feeling. And as I rose from the mat, I felt pain-free. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Maria. And then I also had a Reiki session yesterday. So calming often leads to healing. When my body is agitated, it does not remove itself from pain. Yeah, I can relate. Thank you so much for sharing that. So does anyone else have something they want to share for the exercise we just did with the pencil? Emma, your hand's up. Go ahead. Oh, you got to unmute.
I said, I apologize. It always seems to be up. The difference between fast and slow movement really surprised me. And then my mind went off on a total tangent as I realized how much sensation there was in the hands and when the hands touched the body. And I thought of something. I thought this would be an excellent workshop for teens, teen girls in particular, because, oh gosh, I wish I could read my writing better. The secrets of smarmy wooers who know instinctively to move their hands slowly across your skin, and our body knowledge that can tell us that there is someone, as someone said earlier, that someone is lying, contriving, manipulating. So it'd be good to know that. That's kind of a good thing to know. So to understand what other people's hands are feeling when they touch your skin, I think we seem to use our hands more as tools than as feedback. We are aggressively reaching out into the world and doing and owning and handling and manipulating in our own ways without the passivity necessary to really feel and absorb. And I think that somehow peace, contentment, solidity, a sense of wholeness comes from being able to allow those feelings in. So that's all my thoughts.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really, really cool. That's great. Thank you. Anyone else want to respond to the hand exercise? I see that Leisha wrote in the chat, and then Mary. Well, I'm going to read Leisha's, and then you come up, okay? My hands need more care, more attention, tearing up, sensual, feels like cleansing, relaxing. Tips of my fingers look good, very dependable, but never really valued them. The pencil is from Guoman Hotel, Shanghai, probably made in China, but it doesn't say. Interesting that I picked up this pencil at the last minute. I think I've only paid attention to my hands when I've had to do physio. Oh, wow, that's funny. Thanks, Leisha. Okay, go ahead, Marie.
So Emma made a good point. I was born with 2 functioning hands, but now I have 1, and I have grown like more aware of sensation because I have 1. So I picked an old nail file, and it was really ticklish, and also it felt best between my pinky and ring finger. I kept going back there, and then I realized, oh, because I like that. And then good thing I went slow, because I would grate my hand.
Yeah, you would. Nice object, though. Really stimulating, eh? Really nice, stimulating object. Wow, thank you.
And one more thing, it felt wrong going everywhere else, but when I passed my nails, it felt normal. It felt right.
So it felt like you shouldn't be doing it until you used it correctly. Oh, that's so interesting, right? But of course, you can use it anyway, right? As long as you don't hurt yourself. Thank you so much for sharing. What an interesting reflection. Anyone else want to share? Thank you so much. Anyone else? I have one last exercise, but we are at the 1 o'clock point. I am very impressed with how overprepared I was. I think I had about 3 hours or 4 hours of material for 90 minutes, which is very typical for me. And it's easier to do in a curriculum situation where you have 12 weeks and you can spread it to the next week, which is what I'm used to. So I'm just going to show you. Thanks for this time. Yeah, you're welcome, David. Thank you for joining us. So I'm just going to show you the last exercise that I will send you away with, or we can stick around, those of you who want to stick around. But the last exercise, I had this whole bit of stuff that I wanted to talk about, which had to do with gravity. I was going to read to you from Kim Fu for Today I Am a Boy, which I recommend this book. This is a Canadian author based out of Montreal. An excellent book, beautiful story. And then also Harry Dodge My Meteorite, who's an American author, sort of my age, about 10 years older than me, actually. So the last exercise is a very short exercise. And how it works is, if you are comfortable walking in bare feet or socks, I recommend removing your shoes for this exercise. And all it is you stand up, you close your eyes for a moment, and you bring your awareness to your feet. You try to feel the weight of your body and where your feet take that weight. And if you're sitting, you can do this just by leaning forward a little bit. But if you're standing, you get a bit more weight, right? When you feel ready, take 3 minutes to move around your space. Walk slowly with intention. Imagine you have eyes in the bottoms of your feet. Bring your awareness to your feet as you walk. Explore your space by seeing and sensing with your feet and through your feet. After 3 minutes, sit down and spend 5 minutes writing about what your feet saw and felt and what they understood. And if you were sitting, the revision of this would be to simply imagine your feet have eyes. And if you can, flex and straighten your feet and use them to scan the space as though they see. And then sit down and spend 5 minutes writing about what your feet saw and felt and what they understood. So I can sit here with you if you want to take 5 minutes to do this exercise. I just want to read what Judy said in the chat, which is Judy shared, even when I have judged my body for its substandard language, I have always loved my hands. They do not want to touch the plastic pen, but prefer to touch each other. Right on. I don't like plastic pens either. I do. I let them touch my lips and run them over the moon-sized crevices, reassuring my voice. Wow, that's beautiful, Judy. That's so beautiful. So I'm not sure how many of you are on your way out or how many of you would like to do the last exercise, but I can certainly host the last exercise if you'd like. So I will talk you through it once again. Is that okay? Is everyone sticking around? I can't tell. I guess so. Thanks, enjoyable and helpful workshop. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Anna, for coming. Okay, so I'll go back and I will, so stand up, close your eyes for a moment and bring your awareness to your feet. Try to feel the weight of your body and where your feet take that weight. When you feel ready, take 3 minutes to walk around your space. Walk slowly and with intention. Imagine you have eyes in the bottoms of your feet. Bring your awareness to your feet as you walk. Explore your space by seeing and sensing with your feet and through your feet. And after 3 minutes, sit down and spend 5 minutes writing about what your feet saw and felt and what they understood. And the version of this for sitting is close your eyes for a moment and bring your awareness to your feet. Try to feel the weight of your feet and where your feet are in space. Imagine that your feet have eyes at the bottoms of them and bring your awareness to your feet as they are in the space. Explore the space by sensing with your feet through those imagined eyes. And after 3 minutes, spend 5 minutes writing about what your feet saw and felt and what they understood. Okay, so we're going to take, let's take 6 minutes.
Barefoot every night around here, so it's not a new sensation. This always
So 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes. Okay, we got 15 seconds. Okay. Does anyone want to share? Marie wrote, I wrote more generally because I've done Tarzan in fun positions, circumstances. Oh, wow. Did you want to share? Go ahead, Marie. Go ahead.
So I wrote, well, my feet can wait there for me, but my feet also become hands in certain situations. So I have dexterity in my toes and they feel like a fat hand. If I drop something more often than not, I can pass it to my hand with my foot and I won't bend over. And I always wonder if blind people have as much toe sensory.
Sensitivity? You wonder if blind people have toe sensitivity. I suspect people improvise in all kinds of ways depending on how they feel safe. I'm so excited by your term to Tarzan, like it's a verb, to Tarzan, by picking things up with your feet. That's an excellent verb because my kids pick things up with their feet and I pick things up with my feet. It's fun. It's a useful thing to train for, right? So thank you for sharing that. To Tarzan has now become a verb in my life. Thank you. Anyone else want to share? Oh, thanks. Did you have anything else you wanted to say, Marie? No? Anyone else want to share? Anyone? No? Okay. I don't see any more things in the chat to read. I see a lot of thank yous. So I guess this concludes our, oh, Emma, did you want to share something, Emma? To Tarzan? Oh, you got to turn yourself up. You're muted still. Whoops.
I can relate to what you said, Marie, and now what I have done is I am putting on, I should mention I have lots of foot issues and they've been problems for me, but now I'm putting on my shoes with the separate toes so that I can walk around and feel my individual toes.
Nice. Nice. Glad you have those. Those are very, very good. Those are very good. Leacha's announcing a workshop 5, which is August 23rd, making a cookbook for and from community reflecting and writing activities with Cassandra Marcillo. So please look at that on the website, and the link is in the chat. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm really grateful that you were all here and you gave me a chance to explore this material with you. It's something I've been doing a lot in my life, but not so much in my practical teaching, except sometimes with writing exercises I do with my students, but I've not done this many somatic exercises. So this was really interesting for me. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Julian, for such an inspiring and I would say soothing workshop. For me, it was also soothing. And I want to thank all the participants for joining us today. And as Julian mentioned, our next workshop is on Friday, August 23rd at 12:30 p.m. with Cassandra Marcillo. And finally, just thank you all for being here. Accenti's project, Workshops to Build Community, is made possible through the financial support of Employment and Social Development Canada as part of the New Horizons Seniors Program. I hope you have a good rest of the day, Thursday, and I hope you have a good weekend and hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much.